Guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinoTweets. You guys let me know. Can you guys hear me and all that stuff? Let's make sure audio and all of that is working before we get started because this is probably going to be a little bit of a long one. We have lots and lots and lots to talk about. So just let me know now if you guys can hear me. If not, oh yeah, you guys probably can't. Here, hold on. Give me 1 second. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Because my mic wasn't even on. Okay. So here we go. I wanted to do this show a little bit later because one, there's always so many people that do their shows literally right after the game ends. And two, I wanted to see what happened in the Spurs match and to see, because I think that opens up the conversation a little bit more because we know kind of like what kind of result they got. And so now that they've dropped points, I think it's looking like things are turning around for us. I do think we need to be, well, what I will be, because I really don't want to tell people how to be, because all fans deserve to be however they want to. But for me, I still want to remain a little bit more cautious about top four because we were the team that lost 3 on the bounce. Now we won 2 on the bounce. Spurs have dropped points twice. So it's kind of like, it does feel like it's going to go to the end. But just a couple of weeks ago, it looked like it was all gone. So I think just being back in the race or feeling optimistic about the race, I think is a good thing. But Spurs, I mean, they look terrible today. And I'm not even just being shady. They were not good today. I think there's something about playing first that does put the pressure on the other team. And I'm sure that they were hoping that there was a draw or we would lose. And us winning that game, I do think put the impetus on them to compete against Brentford. And Brentford, although I don't think they had the best game in their final third, they made it very difficult for Spurs. And Spurs had no chances, which is insane. They went through the last 2 games with very little to show for it in terms of chances created, shots on goal, any threat whatsoever. And maybe their hot streak is running a little bit cold. We had a similar hot streak in December that hit, that it was right after Aubameyang got dropped, and we scored 20 goals in that time. And then it just started to cool off after that. And so teams do go through hot streaks and then they go cold. And so I think that seeing that Spurs are not this team that's really changed so much and they were just having a hot streak makes it feel like top 4 really is attainable if we can keep our resolve. And I think the one thing that we have above the other 2 bigger teams, because I still think West Ham have a decent enough chance, but in regards to Spurs and Man United, what we have that they don't is that togetherness and the everybody working together for a common goal. And I don't think the other 2 teams really have that. It feels like when they get down, they just kind of all just go into individual mode. And I don't know what Conte was doing, but his substitutions were strange. And it just seemed like they couldn't figure anything out. And really, if Son and Kane are not scoring bags of goals, they don't have much else beyond that. So I do think that we have something that they don't. Now, does togetherness and unity and all that kind of stuff always end up with your team finishing above the others? No, but I do think it gives us a little bit of an advantage where we may not have the goal scorers. We may not have that world-class quality that the other 2 teams do have. So it is nice to watch them drop points. And now we are 2 points clear of the chasing pack. And hopefully they will continue to drop points and will continue to win. West Ham feel like they are focusing a lot of their effort on the Europa League. And so I do think in between the time that we play them, maybe they play both of their games and then we play them, or it's in between, but we have nothing else to play for but this. So I would expect us to go out there and really give them hell. Let's see. Liam Duncan says Spurs have not registered a shot on target since April 19th. That's wild. O'Malley says Brighton gave the Prem the blueprint on stopping Spurs. AK Gunner says West Ham and Newcastle away concern me. At the moment, we can afford with a draw against Spurs away. I'm hoping Spurs drop points against Leicester, Burnley, and Liverpool. Yeah, we need them to drop more points, obviously, because we're going to drop points. And West Ham, I do think, is a game that we should really try to like. We're obviously we try to win every single game, but I do think if you get the 3 points there, you're in a really good position. They are fully focusing on Europa League because that's their best chance of getting Champions League football next season. And it seems like a clear, now that Barcelona is out of that competition, it seems like they have such a good opportunity. I would do the same thing. But Newcastle have really kind of sprung into form over the last couple of weeks. Basically since the January transfer window, they've been transformed. Eddie Howe's doing such a good job. I think during their last game, they got the 40 points, which traditionally will keep you from getting relegated. So they have a spring in their step. They have nothing really to worry about, and they can just have fun until the end of the season. So that does worry me just a little bit because they have some players that are really dangerous. They're on form. You look at players like Joe Linton, who's been revitalized as a midfielder. Bruno Guimaraes, you guys know I rate him very highly. So that is going to be a difficult game, but we have played good teams that are in form and still beat them. So I do think that we can do the same against them, but it will be a very, very difficult game, that one. But Spurs, they have Leicester. Leicester are also quite focused on the Europa Conference League, so I'm not quite sure that I believe that they're going to be some difficult opposition for Spurs. But Burnley may present some problems, and they need to lose to Liverpool. They can't get anything from that game, or else we're in trouble. So it's close. Nobody's running away with this thing, but we put ourselves back into a position of strength, in this. So we just have to kind of do our thing. Let's see. Let's see what you guys are saying, because we're gonna do player ratings in just a sec. I just want to make sure we kind of do this beginning part. Let's see. O'Malley says Brentford should have won that with slightly more quality up top. Yeah, I don't think that they had very much going on in the final third. They were kind of whacking balls in there and just kind of trying to get headers, and there was a lot of poor crosses coming in. What they did a good job of doing is battling for every ball and not getting sucked into the, okay, let's just, go willy-nilly up the pitch and then allow them play that counter-attacking. They never let, like, Son and Kane were never in those positions to really connect with each other very closely, like in the center of the pitch. And that's where you get killed. If Son can find Kane or Kane can find Son, like, you're done. And it seemed like they really tried to limit that. The only thing is that they didn't have the killer edge in the box. And that's not really that shocking to me, but at the same time, I do think that Ivan Toney was unlucky not to put that ball in the back of the net towards the end of the game. Let's see. Lionide. So you think the race for top 4 is gone? No, I think it's just right there. Anything can happen. We've seen, we were out. We were clear, then we were out, then we're back in. Anything can happen. So right now, I don't want to go too far into being like, okay, yeah, like now we're definitely getting it after we know what it was like after we lost those 3 games in a row. It's a slippery slope. Let's see. Z Gould says, hey, Jess, if this Arsenal team makes top 4, it's a disgrace. Congrats on your win today, but my God, that was horrible. Man United are terrible this year, but yet if they take their chances, they could have won. Yeah, I get where you're coming from on that. I mean, that's kind of the thing is the other rival teams feel like this Arsenal team is so bad that we don't deserve it. But what you guys fail to remember is that we're a young team and we just kind of started the squad over. You guys lost to a team full of 20-year-olds. Nketiah, Elneny, Cedric, Tavares, and you had Ronaldo and Sancho and them on the pitch. So this Arsenal team is a disgrace. That's not our story. We're not a team that has Ozil and Aubameyang and Lacazette and all these overpaid players. We have a bunch of kids out there playing their hearts out, trying to get top four in a season where nobody gave us a chance. They thought we'd finish mid-table. So, um, respectfully, no one cares. Like, if you guys don't think this team is good enough to be in the top four and we're a disgrace, we're not a disgrace. Man United is a disgrace. How are we a disgrace? We're a bunch of young kids that are playing up, so it's weird that you would say that we're a disgrace when it's actually your team that is. I mean, you had Ronaldo and Sancho and Champions League Varane out there, and he was whiffing the ball, and he was like a main culprit in the first goal. So you guys could have finished your chances and maybe won the game, but what does that even matter now? You guys have lost so many games. You guys have played terribly all season. So we won the game because we deserved it. And for you to say that we're a disgrace when I mean, you're a Man United fan. That makes no sense. We're not a disgrace. You are. There you go. So yeah, Donix Len says Ivan Toney was poor, disappointing today. Yeah, he wasn't great. He wasn't great. So yeah. Let's see. Zitch says you lost to an Arsenal team, which just so happens to be above you in the table. Then it doesn't mean your team was a disgrace. It's just so weird. Like, I don't know. And it's not sensitivity. I just feel like you guys need to get a grip. Like, you really do, and need to recognize that, like, saying that we're just as bad as you is not really, it's not really, doesn't mean anything. You guys are supposed to be winning the title. You guys are supposed to be fighting for the title, and you're scraping around with us trying to get top four, and we were a team that was supposed to be mid-table. So it doesn't, like, it's dead banter at this point when the reality of your season has been disgraceful. You know what I mean? So, by the way, Gabriel Jesus was amazing, like, today. And you guys know I'm a huge fan of Gabriel Jesus. When the links came out yesterday, I was ecstatic because this is the type of player that I do think we need in the team. Somebody that's a hard worker, a little bit older, but Premier League proven, still can get better, has played at the highest level, has scored quite a bit of goals, and would fit right in with the forwards that we have. And so to see him go out there and score 4 goals, and I think he got an assist as well, I think was really good for him, because a lot of Arsenal fans were saying that he can't finish. He's a terrible striker, but he's a forward. Pretty similar to, like, the other forwards that are in the league, like the Liverpool guys. Like, they're pretty much the goal scorers, but they're not really traditional strikers. And so I think that if we were to do something like that, where we didn't have just always just a traditional striker, and sometimes we just played with 3 forwards, I would love to see that. Like Emil Smith Rowe, Jesus Saka, Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, like, and have a fluid front three. Obviously, I do think you would still need a traditional striker just to make sure that we have that presence in days where that doesn't work. But that would be, like, amazing to have, is somebody like Gabriel Jesus. So yeah. Give me 1 second, you guys. I just need to, like, blow my nose really quick. I'm back. Sorry. Sorry, you guys. Every single time that I try to start doing these streams, I have, like, something, like, my nose just starts, like, stuffing up. Oh, and I, like, yeah. So there you go. But now, let's talk about the game. So it wasn't pretty, and I think we got away with some things. I think that you could look at it and say that if it had finished 2-2, you might have been like, "Oh, okay, like, that makes sense." Like, I do think it was a game where if you look at the score, you kind of would think, "Okay, we blew them away," but they had chances, we had chances. We got lucky with Bruno Fernandes missing that penalty. So, it's just a different, it's one of those games where it's kind of like you just have to take the points, and I think we're at the business end of the season where it doesn't really matter anymore. Um how you get the points, you just need to get them. So when people are still trying to say, well, that Arsenal team is not any good, it doesn't matter. We're getting the points. Like that's all that matters right now. So wait, let's see. Oh yeah. So I do think that we in some ways got away with things, but ultimately we got the points. So I guess we can start from the back with our player ratings. But before I do that, there's 120 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Um, yeah, and we'll start our player ratings now because I know you guys want to talk about like like the whole thing, like the macro level stuff. But I do want to get through some player ratings today. So Ramsdale, he's been very shaky. Like if we're honest, like he's been shaky. And so, but what I do want to say is that I will never forget how the beginning of the season started and how he transmitted that energy and how he was just a different type of goalkeeper to Leno, and he instilled that that positivity into the Arsenal fan base. And so I get that he's going through a low period, but I won't crap on him too much because he's done so much for us. There's games where we wouldn't have been won. We wouldn't even have won the game had he had not been there. The saves that he made against Leicester both times. There's just games that I remember, even like the Brighton game where we probably should have lost, but we ended up drawing the game. So I see the criticism for Ramsdale and how he's not really making those saves anymore. He's looking um, a little bit out of form. But at the same time, like we have to remember that he's 23 years old. He is playing for Arsenal. This is his first season. Playing for Arsenal and playing for Sheffield United are two completely different things, and the requirements are completely different. That being said, like he was really kind of like shaky again, like he kind of was against Chelsea. And I think he's been shaky kind of since the Man City game, if I'm honest. And it doesn't really seem like he ever recovered. And I'm not sure if his hip injury is also a reason why he's not playing as well. But I wonder if his nervousness or his lack of form is transmitting to the back line because when he was confident, the back line was confident. And I know we've lost Tomiyasu and Tierney, but there's just mistakes that Ben White and Gabrielle are making that I didn't see before. And I wonder if that's coming from the lack of form of Ramsdale. He made one really good save where it went off of the post. But beyond that, I just think there was so many times where he was like coming out, but he didn't really know. He didn't really commit. And maybe that's what I think it is. It's he's not committing to the decisions that he's making. So before it was like if he came out, he came out. If he stayed on his line, he stayed on his line. He was commanding his box. Now it's kind of like you can see that he's a little bit hesitant to come out to do his thing. And I'm like, that's not what we can't have that, Ramsdale. We need you to commit to the decisions that you make when you make them. And so I do think that there was hesitancy from him with Ronaldo's goal, but I still think that Gabriel and Tavares were mostly to blame. But do I think there was an opportunity for him to come out and claim that ball maybe and clean that up before it gets crazy? Yeah. And I think a confident Ramsdale does that. But this guy is just a little bit more on the shaky side. So we kind of need him to get back into form before we finish the season. But I'm not saying that I want a different goalkeeper or anything like that because he's done such a good job and he's 23. Like most goalkeepers, when they're 23, they're on loan somewhere being a number two and sitting on somebody's bench. So this is a lot of responsibility we're putting on a young goalkeeper and young back line. But for me, Ramsdale today, I have to give him a 5. He made a really good save, but he was just too shaky for me. And I think it's transmitting to the back line. So Samaru says that save was crucial. Let's see. Liam says our back four was struggling without Tomiyasu. Yeah, for sure. Michael says Ramsdale and Gabrielle look nervous to me. I feel like the fight for top 4 is making them a little unsteady. I mean, it's a lot of pressure when you're being asked to compete for top 4 for just such a young team, you know, so I would expect them to be a little bit shaky. I am shocked that they've been shaky for as long as they have been. Let's see. Lynn says, I think he has his head turned a little going from his inconsistency at Sheffield United until he came to Arsenal. Tony says, I still think Rams is on the upslope. It was um it was a butt of a deep valley though. John says it's just a confidence thing. Yeah, I think goalkeepers go through these. Like it's not that, and that's why I'm like with goalkeepers, it's different. You just kind of have to hope they get back into form quickly. But some of his shakiness, I think, is kind of transmitting to the back line. El Nino says Ramsdale will relegate Arsenal's 3 first games in Champions League group. Oh, okay. That's so funny. Chike says that was 4 months ago, Jessica. Jesus Christ. So you're saying that he's been shaky for 4 months? My God Almighty, shouldn't that not say something? If a keeper's isn't the best player, that's a flag. So I do think he's been shaky, more shaky than he was at the beginning of the season. Like the first half of the season, he was basically perfect. And then we had the Man City game. And I think literally since then, there's been a game here, a game there, a game here, a game there, where Ramsdale and Gabriel have had very difficult moments. And so I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. But at the same time, like he was carrying us so much in the beginning of the season that he was man of the match in so many games that it's kind of like they need to carry him a little bit right now. So he doesn't, it's not that big of a deal. Like I am going to give him a lower score, but it's not something that's going to make me like, oh my gosh, like he's been bad for 4 months. Like he hasn't been. He's just had these shaky moments that he didn't have at the beginning of the season when he first came in. It's just there. Like it's just what it is. But he did have a good save, but he had one moment where didn't he pass it straight to Bruno Fernandes or something, and it really could have been a goal. And Bruno Fernandes really should have scored. But then he turned around and we passed it around the back and he made like a perfect pass to Odegaard. So sometimes it's also what Arteta's asking him to do. But he does have these moments where, and usually like it's two different things. It's coming off the line, commanding your box, making confident and convincing decisions when we're in our box. And then there's the playing out of the back stuff. And both have been a little bit off in the last couple of months. That being said, he's still our number one goalkeeper, and I still think he's been an excellent signing. But it's okay to say that he hasn't really been all that, So there you go. Not in the last couple of months. Let's see. Remy says, "How are they carrying Ramsdale? Geez, your assessments are warped." They're carrying, like how I said, like when he was basically man of the match every single game, he was basically carrying some of the players that were making mistakes. Like when Ben White against Brighton passed the ball back and he kind of saved it, things like that. So usually when there's players that aren't playing well, the rest of the team has to carry them. That doesn't mean you need to drop them. They're still your best players, but teams dip in and out of form. Certain players dip in and out of form. So when I say that they're carrying them, if you have 2 or 3 players out there that aren't really playing well, like Ramsdale, Cedric, and Tavares, you have players like El Neni, players like Xhaka, players like Ben White, players like Bukayo Saka that lift them up and carry them through their difficult form. Am I speaking a different language? I feel like people are just trying to come for me or something because like I'm not really saying anything that's warped. It's like I'm saying that Ramsdale is going through a bad run of form and the other players need to hold him up in this period. But you guys are acting like I'm saying something that's like totally out of this world, which it's not really that big of a deal. Sorry. It's so people in the comment section right now that are feeling like it's like, I need to come at you. Like, relax. We won the game. But we still are going to have honest conversations about the team. Is that okay or no? So there. And I already said that he's 23. I still love him. He's still an amazing goalkeeper, but he is going through a bad run of form. Like, what the hell? Anyways, so let's see. Ramsdale, iGamer says Ramsdale should have grabbed that ball from the sky for Ronaldo's goal, but we move. Exactly. There's just certain things that like he would have done before that he's not doing now because he's probably lost a little bit of confidence. So, you know what I mean? Like that's pretty much all it is. Michael says, but I think it's partially how we play out of the back. There is a degree of risk reward there, but I agree. Rammers has been off form recently. Yeah, and there is that risk and reward, and we saw that against Chelsea that we got the reward from the risk. But yeah, I think Ramsdale. I'm just gonna give him a 5, like because I just thought it was a 5 performance. He did save, had a really good save, but there were just a couple of moments where I felt like he should have been better. So let's move on to Cedric. I think Cedric was not very good today. Him and Telles on that side were just horrendous, I thought. Cedric is meant to have good service into the box, and I thought some of his early crossing was wasteful because we were in a really good moment. I think we could have scored maybe 2 goals early, but whenever it came to him, he just whacked it into the box, and, like, even commentary over here was kinda like, "Oh, well, um, those are just poor crosses," and I was like, "It." So I'm not like, "Hi, like, these are bad crosses, like, they're not really that good," and when you get opportunities, you kinda have to get the most out of them, and I just don't feel like the service that we're getting from Cedric is very good for somebody that they said was a very good, um, crosser of the ball. He didn't really get smoked that much because Sancho wasn't really doing much, but his in possession, he was poor. There was one time where it was just like a very clear and obvious pass that he could have passed to Saka, and he gave it, like, straight to a United player, and I think some of their pressing was decent, but I also think it was just unforced errors from players that were just nervous. That's what it felt like to me. And so whenever Cedric saw a Man United player, it was like he wanted to just pass it to them, and it was annoying. So Cedric for me, with when you play Tavares, if I have to choose between the two of them, I'm going to choose Tavares. And the reason for that is because I think you can get away with it more and you have more options on the right hand side. Like you can put Ben White as a right back and kind of cover for Tavares, but there's no covering for Cedric. I was so happy to see Tomiyasu come onto the pitch because now we can take him out, play Tomiyasu, and you can leave Tavares on the left hand side. But wow, he was shocking. And like he's only 29 years old or 29 years old or something. He's 29. So what I'm trying to say is that he's too experienced to be like out here fumbling around. Like, you know what I mean? And so there was even also one where like Ramsdale came out and like saved it and he like pammed it out. And instead of letting Cedric or letting Ramsdale get it, he just like weirdly just kicked it out for a corner. And I'm like, that's what you expect kids to do, like not Cedric. So yeah, like he really just gave me a headache today. And so I'm gonna give him a 5 because we won. But man, like I'm seeing Tomiyasu was like, thank God, because this guy is terrible. You know what I mean? Bambyville was, I want Cedric on the left-hand side, not Tavares. He's done well there when played there. Um, I would say that early on when we played him on the left-hand side, he was okay, but I can't get those visions of him when we were playing in the Europa League out of my head. He was um because once they realized that he was a right footer playing on the left hand side, they started pressing him more. And so, him trying to switch it onto his right foot was not only killing our width, because we also play with right footers on the left hand side. So, if you have both of them like that, you cut off your width. And he was having a very difficult time trying to figure out how to get it onto his right, and they were pressing him into mistakes. So, I have to say, as chaotic as Tavares was, I think you could potentially exacerbate the situation by putting a right footer on the left hand side, especially because Cedric wasn't even comfortable on his own side. He hasn't looked comfortable. He doesn't look comfortable on his own side. So why would I put him on the left-hand side where he's going to be trying to switch it onto his right? And teams are going to be like, yeah, that's my meal for tonight. So I would say I would stick with Nuno. Cedric needs to sit the bench for a little bit for me, to be honest. Even though I don't think Cedric or Nuno was great today. Let's see. Michael says, I think Cedric was rash today. I did like how the players appreciated him when he was subbed. It was a soft factor moment for me. Yeah, he just, he didn't have a great game today. She Knows Football says Cedric is a guy who could never get the Rubik's Cube ever. RBK says Cedric was messy. Yeah, he was just so scary back there. iGamer said Cedric 5 average performance. Yeah, it's just, I mean, simple passes, going straight to Man United players. When Ramsdale pammed that ball out and he just kicked it nervously out for a corner under relatively no pressure whatsoever. The crossing, the aimless crossing, like this just kind of shows also like the levels that we need to go up to, because you need somebody that can offer you more in the final third if you're going to allow them to bomb forward. This is why I don't really mind Tomiyasu and the way that he plays, because we allow that left back to go forward. But if you're going to allow the right back to go forward and it's Cedric, that he has to be able to combine with Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. And they were successful despite him and not because of him today. And he needs a couple of days off, I think. Epic TV says Cedric put us under a lot of pressure. Facts. He did. But again, like he's one of those where he starts off pretty good when he comes into the team, and then slowly but surely the form dips and you're like, damn. We really needed Tomiyasu back maybe like a month ago. Then, Cedric's good form would have just kind of evened off right then, and Tomiyasu could have came in. But now Cedric is kind of tanking. We need Tomiyasu to come back. I'm sorry. Like, I couldn't. So let's see. Let's go. Okay, so White. So I don't know if you guys saw on if you guys don't follow me on Twitter, follow me at Jacinio Tweets. But I put up that video of Ben White getting his hair done the other day, and I was like, this could only be one of two things. It could either be iconic by the end of the Man United game or banter. If you looked at like his hair, do you guys know Johnny Bravo, like the cartoon, the guy with the tight jeans and the big muscles and the black shirt and the hair that sticks up like this, that's blonde? He looked just like that. And I was like, please, like, do not mess this up, Ben. Oh, sorry, I got something in my eye. But I was like, don't mess this up, Ben, because people are going to like literally come for you and it's just going to be so much banter, right? But I thought he was okay today. What is happening with my eye? You guys, I'm having technical difficulties with my eye. But I thought he was okay today. I don't think that he was like a standout. Like he wasn't one of the man of the match type of nomination kind of guys, but I can't really say that I remember anything that he did that was egregious or bad. So he just gets a standard 6 for me today. I think that's good enough for Ben White. I think that he's had some rough games lately. I don't know if he's carrying an injury or something, because his knee has been bandaged up, at least in training it has been. So I just wanted him to get out of there without any Varane-like mistakes. And he did. So he definitely gets a 6 for me. Nicholas says, Benny Blanco looked like Love Island Maldini. Samaru says Benjamin gets a 7 from me. Bamiville says Ben White was decent today. I give him a 7 out of 10. Let's see. Yeah, Matt G, Johnny Bravo. You guys, if you've never seen that commercial or that cartoon, please look it up, because he looked just like that. The hair was just like so stiff and sitting up there. And I appreciate the fact that Ben White likes to take care of himself and look a certain way. But that hair was just not, it was just so hard looking. And I was like, if you come out there with that hair and you get toasted out there, like they're going to come for you. Epic TV says, I remember dialing in to speak to Johnny Bravo back in the days. Exactly. Tony says, I thought White's clip balls suffered because Saka wasn't at 100%. I really hope the kid is okay. Like, I really hope the kid is okay. I thought he was excellent today, despite not being 100%. And yeah, so he wasn't maybe getting onto the end of those balls. I have to rewatch the game again. But Ben White, he does good clipping those balls in behind. I think we're weirdly not able to clear the ball anymore. Like I'm noticing we either clear it very weakly into midfield or we just kick it out of bounds aimlessly. Um, Ben White has kind of been a culprit of that. Cedric and Gabrielle as well. It's odd, but I thought Ben White did just enough not to be like a mess. Like, you know what I mean? Like just enough to get by without us having to hear about his hair. Georgie, 1 foot LCFC says, congrats on your big win today. It's always good giving United a good slapping. Oh, I mean, I don't know if it was, I mean, the score line looks like a slapping. It does. So there you go. So yeah, I like Ben White's performance. Just if we don't have to talk about him, that means that he didn't do much wrong. There's about 172 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's move on to Gabrielle. So where he was very solid and good against Chelsea, I think he regressed slightly in this game. I don't know if it was just being in the same vicinity as Ronaldo or what it was, or it was just the occasion or what. But I do think that he was a little bit on the shakier side, and especially for Ronaldo's goal. I think that was a Lakonga, sorry. That was a Nuno, Gabriel, and Ramsdale mistake all wrapped into one. Gabriel was just beyond that, he was average. Like he wasn't really like amazing, but that really stood out to me because it was like, wow, like I thought you would cut that out against Chelsea, and then like the very next game you're having some difficulties again. And I get that players make mistakes, so I'm not saying that he shouldn't make mistakes ever, but when they're becoming more frequent and you're seeing that there's an issue between him and Tavares on that side, it needs to be looked at. And so I don't know if they need to do extra training and just stand next to each other and they just kick balls into the corridor of uncertainty and they just figure out how to kick them out or what. But those two on that side are a weakness. And without Tierney, he doesn't look the same. And I know like Tavares and Tierney are not on the same level, but I expect Tavares and Gabriel to figure out those situations a little bit better. So I don't know where the shakiness is coming from. It's like the Wolves game, the Crystal Palace game, this game, like it's coming a little bit more frequently now where we can pick out very distinct scenarios where he just wasn't great. But against Chelsea, he was excellent. So it's just crazy. But he's only 24 years old, and I still like hold on to the fact that I think that our backline is really young and they need some more experience playing with each other, and losing key members of the squad like Tomiyasu and Tierney and even Thomas Partey is going to affect you. So there you go. But I'm gonna give Gabrielle a like a 4.5, 5. Uh maybe more of a 5. He just that mistake, I just expect him to take care of it. But other than that, like he didn't really have that many like he didn't really have anything that stood out to me. So what do you guys think? Bambyville says Gabriel should have done better with CR7's goal. He was concentrated more on putting CR7 off than going straight to the ball. That's how I saw it. But he kind of made up for it in the second half. So I give him a 6. Fair enough. Hani says we need a clean sheet or two. We do. Like we haven't been able to get the clean sheets. And that was something that I think gave our defense a lot of confidence. But I just think the season is wearing us down a little bit. Like not having Tomiyasu, not having Tierney. Those are those are key partnerships there on the sides of Gabriel and Ben White. Their partnership has stayed intact. But when you don't have your fullback next to you and the guys that you have left are they're nothing like the guys that left. And you're all like, Gabriel is actually having to lead Nuno, and I think that that's a different scenario than he has with Tierney. And that's a lot of work. Not only are you trying to focus on your job, but you're also trying to lead Nuno, who's very raw and is not a defender in any stretch of the imagination. So I do think Gabriel is suffering a little bit from that, and that's where the rashness comes in. That's where you get the mistakes that he made against Crystal Palace, things like that. but he needs to clean it up. We cannot have these games where we're giving up two goals. We only gave up one, but it could have easily been two or three against Man United. So it does need to get cleaned up. Brian says Gabriel had a solid 7 out of 10, especially in the second half. He was much better in the second half. High Tech J says Gabriel also deflected Bruno's should have been goal from Ramsdale's mistake. Fair enough. That was a very scary moment. I remember that. Tawanda says, this is a young team. They will learn. Do you think the likes of Holding, Laka, Xhaka, and El Neni are good influences on these young players? I do, because I think that they work hard. They're professional. They do what they're supposed to. But I don't think that they have the playing ability experience to give them what these particular players need. Like, I think Gabriel got so much from David Luiz, and that's why he's so much better this season than he was in the last, because he had somebody that had been there and done it at the highest level, playing next to him week in and week out for most of the season. I think some of our players are lacking that type of experience in this team, people that have done it before. No offense to El Neni and Granite and Laka and Holding, but none of them have really played Champions League, have they? Not in a consistent basis, maybe one season here or there, maybe a group stage here or there. We don't have proven winners at the highest level, and I think our players need some of that. But we've gone with a young squad that are growing together, so we just have to wait it out. But I don't think they're bad influences at all. Let's see. Ramsdale needs a clean sheet. He does. Ivy says Gabriel 6, better second half from him. Kimi says, Jess, our defense is wanting. We're not sure what to expect, but good performance. I expect improvement from the team. Let's keep the momentum going. Exactly. Yo-Yo says Gab, White, Rams have shown rashness before. Nuno's integration into the team. This defense and team is learning. This is all very new to them. Yeah, they just need time to cook, I guess, right? Ivy says this is why, agreed, which is why I wanted Luis to stay to help the younger players, but it's all good. So yeah, moving on, let's talk about Nuno. Oh my gosh, this guy, like, seriously, like, what is it? Like, what is he? Nuno is somebody that I think if the right coach could get a hold of him, could be something dangerous, but he's not a defender. Like, he has no defensive awareness. He can only really defend in a scenario where he's meant to just, like, body a person, like body the other player and be able to keep up with them for pace, like kind of like how he did with Alenga, which I don't think that was a penalty. I know a lot of Man United fans think that that's a penalty, but there wasn't that much contact. And Nuno, basically, it was like a shoulder to shoulder, and Alenga is very, very, very quick to go down. Like we saw it in the Champions League. That's what he does. So he felt a little bit of contact and fell down. But that's where Nuno can kind of be a cheat defender, like speed and athleticism getting him out of trouble when he makes mistakes. But in terms of positioning, being switched on, defensive awareness, keeping the shape, there was one offside. I don't know if it was the Ronaldo one or another one, but he didn't even know where the line was. Like, he wasn't even in line with the defense. Like, he just kind of happened to be in the right spot, and it was barely offside. And Holding, like, turned around and was like, good job, Nuno. But when you watched it, because Holding can't see what's behind him, Nuno had no idea what was going on. He had no idea what was going on. This guy has no idea what he's doing defensively. And I think you ask for things and then you get them, because we asked Arteta to play Nuno. So I'm going to remember that I wanted him to play in that position. So you got to take the rough with the smooth. And I'm not quite ready to, like, let it go just yet, because if we could get Tomiyasu on that right-hand side, we might be all right. Now, Nuno is definitely more of a wing back. And this is why at the end of the season, I think recruitment is going to be a very interesting conversation, because if you have somebody like Tierney and you play some very specifically with regular fullbacks, you don't recruit a wing back, especially a wing back that has no defensive awareness whatsoever. But what I will say about Nuno is that with all his flaws, I like the chaos that he creates going forward. If he could learn how to release the ball quicker, if he could learn how to take better shots with his right foot, he could really be dangerous in this league. Speed and athleticism and physicality and unpredictability are a very hot commodity for this league. Will it be good for Arsenal? I don't know. But am I willing to find out? Maybe. He obviously scored the first goal. And the way I was like, no, 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 no. Like I was very much like, oh my gosh, like no, no. It was amazing. Um, and it was just a matter of players being aware in the box and being there to tap it in. And that's something that we have been missing. It's like some of our players just tend to be pretty stagnant in the box, and he was aware. If only he had similar awareness in the defensive box. But he scored the first goal, and I mean, he had a wild game, didn't he? He could have had the penalty called against him for Alenga. He had the handball penalty that was missed by Bruno Fernandez. I mean, he had an all over. I mean, he had um, a hero to villain type of um, arc today. But what I'll say about Nuno is that I do think that his intention to do the best that he possibly can and to get out there and play against Chelsea and to play against Man United in the way that he has, for me, is the type of mentality that you need to play for Arsenal because you're going to have shitty games. There's so much pressure, and he's clearly so raw. But so many players would have shied away and said, you know what, I just don't want the criticism. But he's still playing. And that's what I love about it. And I'm so happy that Arteta decided to continue to play him because to move Granit Xhaka back to left back or play Cedric over there, I don't think would have really helped us. Like, I don't. So for me, Nuno has the energy, the athleticism, all the things, all the tools to be something very dangerous in this league. Will we use it? I don't know. I don't know if that's what Arteta wants. But from now until the end of the season, I just think you just play Nuno. You know, I just think you have to, especially if you get Tomiyasu back, and we just have to trust that he gets better. But I don't think moving Cedric over there is a better thing to do. I don't. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, it's just wild because offensively he was okay, but there was a moment in time where United had started to turn up the heat in the second half at the very beginning of the second half, and Nuno was our outlet, and because he couldn't get his touch right, he kept just losing the ball. And that is definitely something that he has to fix. Like when we're under pressure and you're the outlet, you need to make the right decision to get us out of dodge. And a lot of his decisions were keeping us locked back. But what I did like is our team continued to pass to him, and eventually he got better. So that's kind of my thoughts on Tavares. I have a very hard time like disliking him because he he of course moved to Arsenal because it's a big club. Why wouldn't he? Was he the right fit? Maybe not. But I mean, he's had an up and down season, and for him to come back into the team, I think is a good thing, and play the way that he has, even with the mistakes. Bambyville says there's a good baller in Nuno. Like I said, he just needs to add calmness and brains to his game. Boy, oh boy, he did give us a scare today, a 5 out of 10, just because of the goal. Yeah, I mean, the heart attacks that I was having. iGamer says Nuno after summer will be peak. Eddie says Cedric at left back will be much worse than Nuno. Honestly, that's how I kind of feel. I don't really think that we need to be Jimmy rigging things right now, you know. Nidham Trim says, I know Arteta was in turmoil when Nunn started to lose his head, when Nuno started to lose his head, but keeping him may pay dividends with his confidence. We asked for Nuno to play. So this is what we're getting. And like Arteta probably has seen this in training, and maybe that's why he was afraid to play him. But ultimately, I think we've played better, even though we've been shocking in some moments. I think that we've played better since we just played players in the right positions. Happily Egg says Tavares cost AFC the goal and could have cost 3 goals. Gabriel was never sure about him. Yeah, Gabriel is not really in a position to be trying to cover for Nuno. He's still trying to learn his trade, and having somebody so raw and so defensively unaware on his side is definitely hurting him and making him make bad decisions. But this is the bed that we made. We brought in Tavares. This is Edu's guy that he brought in. And so I just don't see another choice right now that we could make. The only other thing that I may think about doing is playing 3 at the back and playing him as a true wing back so we can make sure we have that defensive cover, but I wouldn't move him at this point. She Knows Football, thank you so much for your super chat, says his face when he brought Alanga down was priceless. Total victim face. He does give his all, though. He scored a key goal. Yeah, he did. I mean, do you guys think it was a penalty on Alanga? Let me know if you guys think we got away with one, because obviously Cedric had the handball. It was outside the box, like it would have been called outside the box, but he had the handball that a lot of Man United fans feel like should have been a penalty or at least a call. And then Nuno had the Alanga foul or whatever. So do you guys think that Nuno fouled Alanga, or do you think Alanga went down soft? GK says, Nuno, oh my God, he's just a player you have to laugh and love. Saswat says, Nuno dropping that monster disaster class and still being the best, on the pitch needs to be respected more. Yo-Yo says, Nuno's first season in the Prem, having played very little senior football at Benfica, a lot of promise there. I think people forget about that he didn't play a lot of first team football at Benfica. He's basically an academy player. Like, that's his level right now. And so what I really like about him is he has the type of speed and athleticism and endeavor to go forward that, if it can be molded in the right way, can be so useful to a team like Arsenal. I don't know if that's the type of player Arteta wants, but I wish he would work with this raw talent. Because as crazy as he looks right now, I'm just looking at him like, in a couple of years, you could be a monster, in a good way. Let's see. Ivy says, I like the geezer. He just needs to improve his defensive awareness. Yeah, for sure. Eddie says, but I don't think he can play away, though. Away at West Ham would be hard for him. I mean, he played away at Chelsea. We got very similar results, home and away. So, I mean, and what would be your solution to that? Playing Cedric over there? He doesn't even play well on his own side. Eddie says, Nuno's was not a penalty, but Cedric was very close. It looked really intentional. Fair enough. Hyphy said, even Nuno's goal celebration was sloppy as hell. He did not know how to do a knee slide. But hey, I think I'm just happy he got a goal. Like, I don't know. I just can't hate Nuno. I can't. Amir says, with the rumors about us strengthening the left side of our defense and how good supposedly he is at coaching wingers, do you see a chance for him to be coached as a winger in the future? So maybe, potentially. I mean, when they say the left side, I think that's very ambiguous. That could be a left-sided center back as well. So left side of defense could be one or the other. But I think with so much surgery that needs to happen at this club over the summer, I think left back would still be somewhat of a last minute type of thing if I have to bring somebody in, because I think you can work with Nuno, and we need a right back, because I think Cedric is more of an issue at this point than Nuno. Even though I get that Kieran Tierney is out, the way that we play with Tomiyasu, Ben White, and Gabriel, I think provides like a decent enough platform for Nuno to play higher up. And with them, maybe with a little bit more solidity, it won't be as big of a deal. But maybe you could coach Nuno into some sort of left winger, but we just have to see. Tony says, not a pen. Alanga should have twisted to sell the pool to get a pen. Otherwise, it was mostly shoulder to shoulder, but Nuno has to do better. Yeah, I think Nuno just at that point had gotten beat. Alenga is very fast and got on the wrong side or on the inside of Nuno. And so it was either pull him down or whatever. But the thing is like it was very much so shoulder to shoulder. And even with Nuno having his arm like this, it wasn't enough of a pullback or anything like that. So I can see why it wasn't given. I think it's just too easy to get penalties these days. It's just too easy. Um, Sohan says, so glad Tomiyasu is back. He's going to be very positive in these final games. Happily Egg says, it was outside the box. The contact was mutual. It looked bad because Alenga had the narrow side of the curve. Yeah, and I think they were both pushing each other. And if you can't go shoulder to shoulder anymore, the game is gone. Like I hate to be like old man shutting out clouds or whatever, but it just, if you can't touch anybody in the box, it's done. And like the difference between his and it was like they were going like this and they were kind of neck and neck and Alenga went down with Saka and Tellez. Tellez was on the blind side of Saka. Saka didn't even know he was there. So it was different. But yeah, let's see. Craig, you're like super negative right now. You're saying if we do get Champions League football, we will get ripped apart. I mean, fair enough. There's a lot of people that feel like if we get Champions League, we won't win a game. But I mean, right now for me, it's more about just getting it. It'll be important for this young team to just at least qualify. There are teams like I don't know, like there are teams that are from other leagues that can't even play against any of the Premier League teams and get anything out of it. So I do think that when we watch the big games like Real Madrid and Chelsea or Man City and whoever else, you know, it does look like we won't be able to play in those games, but there's a whole bunch of group games before that that we could probably do well in. So I don't know about getting ripped apart, but like I'd rather be in it and get killed than be out of it. Like there's the Europa League for me. If we get it, fine. But I'd rather us get ripped apart in the Champions League and fall into the Europa League and then try to win that than not be there at all. It's just important for this young team. Jeremy says old men shouting out clouds could be a good name for podcast. I mean, I don't want to be like that, but you know, Dublin Gooner says Nuno's mad as a box of frogs, but somehow I still love him. Exactly. So there's about 200 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm giving Nuno a 6.5. I know that might seem high, but he scored a goal and I just love his energy and he's young and raw. And I mean, my expectations of him are not very high. I hope that doesn't seem mean, but it just isn't. So yeah, let's move on to the midfield. Elneny and Granit Xhaka have been exceptional in like the last two games. And I know Elneny had some weirdish moments in the beginning of the Chelsea game, but he hadn't played in like forever. Today, like Elneny decided to be Thomas Partey, and I am fucking here for it. Excuse my language, but Elneny was so good today. Granit Xhaka, so good today. It was just crazy. Like these guys are stepping up for Thomas Partey. Like we needed these midfielders, these older guys to freaking step up, stop passing backwards and get us up the pitch. These guys were doing the business. And I'm so happy. Let's start with Elneny first. Pyramid Pirlo. This guy, he almost scored a goal as well. Like that was a very good save from De Gea, but that looked like it was sneaking into the bottom corner. This guy was everywhere. And what I liked about him is that he, you know, put his toe out to just make sure that they couldn't get easy possession. He was blocking passing lanes. He was energetic. He was making tackles. He was doing that shit. And then his passes were good. He was just Elneny. Like you've done it. You've done it. He has like, you just expect him to have like one of these games this season, but he's had two. Like it's insane. And I know like Elneny gets a lot of stick, and I think it's because he came in during a time where we saw that the recruitment wasn't really up to scratch. But I like how he goes about his business. And when he comes in, he just plays well. He does his job and he doesn't hurt nobody. He don't do nothing. Like he just plays the game. And sometimes, yeah, backwards passing and stuff can get frustrating, but he didn't have that. Like he was doing some things like Thomas Partey, like his little like shoulder, whatever, the shoulder feints and stuff like that. I mean, El Neni, thank you. Thank you. Because I don't think, I'm not going to even, like, okay, this is not to be like negative, but I do think we needed something different in midfield because we were really young in the midfield. So yeah, like El Neni, yes. That was great. So I'm gonna give El Neni an 8. I thought he was excellent. I don't know if that's too low or not, but I'm gonna give El Neni an 8. Ify says, in my opinion, he was my man of the match. Cool. I like that. Zick says, El Neni had a great game. Please don't give him a new contract. Arteta has kind of already said that he wants to try to keep him. Now, this is where I get a little bit annoyed because I'm like, okay, but we need to like get better than El Neni. But Arteta seems like he wants to keep some of these guys around. That's something that we have to maybe just look forward to in the summer and see what happens with that. I'm hoping that El Neni says, I want to play games and I don't want to sit on your bench, and moves on and saves us from Arteta trying to keep his culture guys around. But as far as the game is concerned, and the last 2 games have been concerned, El Neni has been very, very good. Eddie says, when United are pressing really hard in the first half, he gave a pass away that led to a semblance of attack. His movements to open up passing lanes, especially for Benny Blanco, was not great today. Maybe I have to rewatch it. I know he made at least one mistake, but I don't expect him to be perfect, but I equally think I saw more good than I saw bad. But I have to rewatch it. I'm not saying that these things didn't happen, but I come away from that game feeling like El Neni had a good game. But we all see different things and focus on different things, and I may have just not realized that he made those mistakes. I know he made at least one. Tony says, I saw the switch flip where El Neni was passing backwards, but then looked around and saw that Man United weren't pressing with their CMs, turned into the best Egyptian in the Premier League. He is our best central defensive midfielder. Happily Egg says, if El Neni can maintain that level, he gives you an option that is different. Do you think if El Neni plays at this level, do you think we need to go out and get another central defensive midfielder? Or do you think it's fine to just keep him? Because I don't think Granit Xhaka is going anywhere, you guys. I really don't. And so would you guys be like about to die if El Neni and Xhaka stayed and we just brought in one midfielder and those were our midfield options? El Neni, Granit Xhaka, new midfielder, let's say Tielemans, Thomas Partey, and Lukonga? Would you die, or would you be like, okay, that's fine? Because if El Neni plays like this, I mean, it's not that bad, is it? She Knows Football says top 4 equals Osimhen and others. I don't think we're gonna get Osimhen. Excuse me, guys. I need to blow my nose really quick. Hold on. Sorry. Every time I get on here, my nose just goes. Eddie says F yes. Zick says yes, get someone else next season, please. iGamer says get one more midfielder and keep our boys. So there's mixed results here. Tawanda says we need to add someone to replace Xhaka. I mean, like if we brought in somebody, because the link that never goes away is Tielemans. So what if it was Tielemans plus Xhaka, Thomas Partey, El Neni, and Lukonga? Would you guys die? Tony says El Neni is not at the level. Man United CMs are trash. Well, fair enough. I mean, do you think that El Neni has looked better because we played against weakened midfields? Like, what do you think? RBK says 100% we need a center midfielder. Let's not be silly, even if El Neni stays. Well, no, I think we're going to get one regardless, but I'm just not convinced that. I don't think Xhaka's leaving, but Arteta has said that he wants to try to keep El Neni. So that's what I'm saying. So yeah. Yo-Yo says, let El Neni go. Look at the midfielders he's faced in the last two games. With all due respect, fair enough. There you go. There's about 200 of you guys watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Granit Xhaka gets a 9 for me. He's my man of the match. I mean, it was very close bit for me between him and Martin Odegaard, but I think that Granit Xhaka, some of the passes that he was pinging, like, in the second half were things that I haven't really seen from him in a long time or ever, just the confidence on the ball. He's been so good lately, stepping up for Thomas Partey, and he hasn't been stupid. I mean, he did kick the ball and then got the yellow card, but he hasn't gotten the sending off. He hasn't ripped anybody down. He's been reliable defensively. Him and El Neni seem to have a very good um, partnership there, which is great. And the goal that he scores, like when it left his foot, I knew it was going in the back of the net. Like it just was so good. And I'm glad he had that moment because that interview that he had he come into these next 2 games against Chelsea and Man United and dropped disaster classes, like, he would never be able to play for Arsenal again. So, I think that Granit Xhaka has stepped up in the absence of Thomas Partey in a way that I didn't really expect him to, and I'm really enjoying watching him play football, and he's in good form. And I wouldn't be so, like, upset if he didn't go. Of course, I still think we need to upgrade and get another midfielder, but somebody like that as an option is good, I think. And he's leading by example finally, the type of leadership that he was about before. I wasn't feeling it. I was like, okay, but you're getting sent off and shit. But now he's leading by example and actually making a difference in the game during the times that we really need it. And getting that goal really put the game out of reach for Man United and put us in a very comfortable situation. And so I love that for Granit Xhaka. I love that for the team. You can tell that the team really loves him as well. Like the players really like him, you can tell. And so I couldn't be happier for him. It was the one time that the Emirates was screaming for Granit Xhaka to shoot, and it actually helped us. So yeah, I'm happy for him, and he gets a 9 for me, and he's my man of the match. Tawanda says, "Let Arteta build the squad, build its core, and if it doesn't win the Prem, the next manager might be the guy." Christian says, "The way I screamed when Xhaka scored, yeah, I think I was just like, I couldn't believe it, but then when it left his foot, he hit it so clean." GK says he's a decent squad player in a better team. Yeah. Bambyville says, "I don't like Xhaka, to be honest, not my cup of tea, but he was great today. 9 out of 10. iGamer says, "I could give Xhaka an 8 or a 9 for the goal, but how do you get a yellow without committing a foul? He kicked the ball away. That's why he got the yellow." GK says Xhaka is good for squad depth as well. I'm just trying to figure out who's going to buy him. We just haven't really heard much, and Roma just seems to want to play around like with us all the time and give us less money for what the players that we have. And so I don't know if he goes anywhere. I really don't. But if we get into Champions League, I can see him staying. I really can. And Jack is somebody that would thrive in Champions League because against the European teams, you're going to have so much more time. So we'll see what happens with him. GK says Jack has scored often against United, though, like 2 times before. Like, yeah, they were saying that he scored 30% of his goals against United. Don One says, "I'd rather keep Xhaka for squad depth." Craig, we get it. You hate Arteta. You're mad. You're just spamming the chat with like, "Are we forgetting all these games that we lost? Or are you forgetting all the games that we won?" Like, we won the game. Like, just take rest. Like, just rest. Just rest. It's fine. Tony says, "Xhaka boom, finally kept a shot down. Xhaka is still going to be Xhaka, though. His yellow was so dumb. Funny how he looks good when he plays in his best role. Playing players in positions where they feel comfortable probably get the best results." So Ryan Henry says, "Xhaka will not allow himself to become a squad player. His ego is outrageous." I've always kind of felt that way as well, but I feel like that's also an assumption, a projection that we've made upon his character and his personality. So, although I do kind of agree that he wants to be a starter, that's something that we don't know for sure. We have no idea. We don't even know Granite like that. Like, you know what I mean? So, he may be open to being like because I think squad player only really, like, we have starters and backups now because Arteta really doesn't trust the bench. But if we get into Champions League or Europa League even, and he trusts the guys that he has there, like a Granit Xhaka, I don't think he'll be afraid to rotate like he has been this season. So even if he's a squad player, he'll get playing time. But I don't think he's going anywhere. So GK says he doesn't foul as much or give the ball away on the edge of our own box. Yeah, knock on wood, that stays the same. Z Gould says people are talking because United were the better team, Jess, even though you won. Them's bees the breaks. There's times where we were the better team and we lost. That's just how it is. Like, at this point, we're at the business end of the season. If you get the points, we get the points. Like, who really cares? You guys should have been the better team. Remember, you have Ronaldo and Sancho and Champions League Varane on the pitch. You should be better than us. Being better than us and still losing is not some sort of trophy. It's not some indictment on us. Like, let it rest. So yeah, Eunice says, by the way, El Neti is fasting. Can you believe this? No, I can't. Like, if I don't eat, I'm done. Like, there's no way. So Terrence Tibbs says, you're saying your truth, Malloy, not the truth. And let's face it, you haven't really done well with decision making in life. Oh, I don't know anything about his life. But yeah, El Neni was great. He really was. So Odegaard, he was close to being my man of the match. He's really stepped up in these last 2 games, and he's integral to everything that we do, like in terms of like in the attacking third. And where we were shaky in terms of building up from the back through Ramsdale and Cedric and Tavares and just playing out of the back in that way, that front four looked dangerous every single time that they got the ball. And that Saka Odegaard partnership is back. They look better. Hopefully Saka is fit, but I don't know what's going on with him. But Odegaard just looked otherworldly today. He was showing Bruno Fernandes how to be a number 10 and how to create. That guy is not even anywhere near his peak. And I'm afraid to see, in a good way, what he could be. He needs another player on the other side of him, I think, to take away some of the creative burden. I do think that we require him to do a lot of it, and there's not enough of it on the other side. That being said, him being kind of the key focal point in our creative play is great. Like, I love watching him play. He's so smooth. He also works hard, which I love, like his tracking back, his tackling, his getting stuck in. Like, those things make a difference, for a creative player. And so, again, we have completely robbed Real Madrid. We have completely robbed them. And so, yeah, like his performance was good too. I'll probably give him like an 8.5 as well, like, or 8.5, something around there. Cause obviously I've seen him play better, but he was great. And so I'm loving Odegaard at Arsenal. I can't lie. Saswat says when Odegaard gets his cross and inshallah striker, he will hit another level. He doesn't even have a striker yet. Like, that's it. Like, he doesn't even have a striker yet. RBK says on top of that, he was silky on the ball. You're very right, Jess. I mean, he just has all the tools, right? I think his only thing is like him being a little bit on the smaller side and not having that robustness maybe that we thought that he would have. But he makes up for that by being willing to get stuck in as a smaller, more creative player. We've seen in the past that some of these more creative players, these guys that are good on the ball, they don't have that other part of the game. And so him having that, I do think, or the willingness to work hard and press and run a lot and do his thing, I think makes him so much more valuable to us than just any old creative player. And it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt that he's just so good to watch on the ball as well. So Media Center Man says Odegaard is a player's player, a dream to play with. Happily Egg says he makes up for it by being smart. Yeah, he is very, very intelligent player. And he just, even like the ball that he passed to Emile Smith-Rowe for his goal against Chelsea, the it's like the messaging that he puts on the pass, like, he doesn't just pass it anywhere. He passes it to your strong foot. He passes it to you on an angle so that you don't get ran over, or it's not a hospital ball, or he tells you to pass it backwards. He tells you to turn, with his passing. And so having somebody like that on the pitch is amazing. I love it. I love that guy. Christian says Odegaard pinging balls to Jesus next season. You guys know I want Gabriel Jesus, please. Um, Let's see. Zig says, I'm surprised how poor Varane has been this season. It seems no one else is even talking about it, but I guess that's because Maguire takes all of the attention. He's been injured the entire season, basically. And so, of course, they'll give him a new lease on life next season because he's been injured a lot of it. But when he has played, he has not looked good. And I don't think any Man United fan could be honest with them, like could say that they're being honest if they think that he's played well, because he hasn't. He was so bad on our first goal. But good. I'm happy. Conference League Varane. Exactly. Terrence Tibbs says, which fullback should we try and sign? I will star that and we can talk about that after. Let's see. Field division is amazing. Yeah, I'm loving Odegaard, and he's putting in captains like performances. And those 3 games in between where we weren't really playing, we lost the 3 games on the bounce. I didn't really see that from him, but now I'm seeing it, and so I'm happy about Odegaard. 8.5 for me. Let's move on to Emil Smith Rowe. Very quiet game for him, but what I will say is that we do a lot of our creating off of that right-hand side. So I don't think it was really like Emil Smith Rowe having a bad game. I think it was we didn't get him into the game. And so when he came off, it was like, what did he do? But I don't think he necessarily did much wrong. And I don't think we created enough on that side for him to get involved into the game. We were so heavily on the right-hand side with Bukayo Saka and Odegaard. So we kind of suffered with that. So I'm just going to give Smith Rowe just a straight 6. Didn't do anything wrong. Couldn't have done much more. Wasn't really a problem, but we didn't get the ball over to him. Let's see. iGamer says ESR can get a 7. I guess no worries. Let's see. Dev says Odegaard should get the captain's armband next season. I think he will. I think the only reason why maybe Tierney was going to get it was because he had been there a little bit longer and he was higher on the pecking order. But if Tierney is going to be out, which he probably will, like history has told us that he's very kind of like injury prone. I think that it has to be Odegaard. I guess the other options were like Ben White, but I don't think Ben White has been as influential leadership wise as Odegaard has been. And Odegaard's already been a captain before at a very young age. So I would say Odegaard has to get it because Tierney is not going to be able to be available enough to be captain. Christian says Smith Rowe was ghosting, not going to lie, wasn't central enough. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's just more we weren't creating a lot on his side. And even against Chelsea, he didn't really do much. He got the goal. And that's kind of the player that Emil Smith Rowe has been this season. He hasn't really been that involved in the build-up and creating chances and stuff like that. He's been more of a finisher. And so I don't know if I just am kind of like okay with giving him just like an average score and moving on from it and not overthinking it. But maybe I am missing out on something. Happily Egg says, I think Odegaard might be a quiet guy around the dressing room. I don't know. I don't know. We make assumptions about what players are like, but they've chosen him for captain, in this time. And so I have a feeling that he's not as quiet as people think. And when they did his mic'd up around the dressing room, maybe, but when he did his mic'd up last season, when he was just on loan with us and there was the game against West Ham where we came back to draw 3-3, he was talking. And so I think Odegaard does have that captain's gene. MO for captain. Let's see. RBK says ESR struggled a lot tracking Dallo and helping out Nuno. Games like this, which pass him by, are part of the learning curve. Yeah, exactly. Tony says Odie sure as hell isn't quiet on the pitch. No, he isn't. He talks a lot. So yeah, let's see. So Eddie Nketiah, I think, is unlucky to not get a goal. His goal was called off, I think, for offside, and it ended up being the penalty for Bukayo Saka. But I think he's given us just that little bit of energy that we've needed. His link-up play has been pretty decent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's coming deep and collecting the ball. And what I like is he just makes life difficult for the defender. He doesn't just like let it go. He puts his body on them and he uses his body well for somebody who's so small. And so he worked hard. He didn't get like a lot of opportunities in terms of like in front of goal, but he could have had a goal. That was a goal. It was just offside. So Eddie Nketiah for me keeps the shirt once again. I saw somebody on Twitter saying that we need to bring Lacazette back in. I wonder what you guys think about that. Like, is it time to bring Lacazette back in? Do you think we need something different, or does Eddie Nketiah keep the shirt? For me, he has to keep it because I don't want to see somebody walking up front. I think we're getting so much out of our press now that Eddie Nketiah is playing, but I'm going to give him a 7. He worked really hard, didn't really get enough chances, but he did what he needed to do. Don One says Eddie 7. Ivy says Eddie Henri. Dev M says Eddie has done well these past few games. I think he's still getting up to speed with playing with Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, and ESR. Yeah, I mean, we look so much more threatening with him there. And he's not even like, I'm not going to say he's not even that good, but he's not. I just wonder what it's going to be like when we get somebody up there that's like very, very good. Because if this is what we look like with just Eddie, we could be really cooking when we bring somebody else in. Matt G says, no, Eddie keeps the shirt. iGamer says, Eddie keeps the shirt. Mackie says, I never want to see Lacazette again. Sohan says, no, Eddie keeps the position for the rest of the season. Laka can hold the bench. I mean, he's doing a really good supporters position right now as somebody on the bench just cheering the guys on. I mean, I'm not really excited to see Lacazette come back into the team, I have to be honest. Zig says, Lacazette remains on the bench. Eddie says, nah. When I hear Lacazette warming up, I was screaming no. Media Center Man says Eddie gets a 7. Nicholas says other teams have found Laka out. Keep Eddie. Saswat says Eddie kept Varane and Lindelof on their toes. Can't ask more of him. Other than a goal, he was unlucky to get called offside. Chris says keeps his current formation. Yeah, Eddie's still young too. So there you go. Lacazette is cheerleader. Michael says Eddie provides so much movement. Yeah, and that's what we need. Like, we need somebody that can move around. We had gotten to a point where Lacazette was just so stagnant and just like a statue. He didn't make any runs and he didn't make it difficult. So yeah, I think Eddie has to keep the shirt. Terrence Tibbs says one thing about Lacazette, even when he's not in the lineup, he is in the sidelines cheering the players on. Exactly. So there's about 210 of you guys watching. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Last but not least, in terms of the starting lineup, Saka. I thought he was excellent today. He wasn't even 100%. They said that he got injured during the warm-up, I think, and he went down the tunnel, or he was like carrying an injury and went down the tunnel, came back out. If I didn't know, like, I can't believe that he wasn't 100% because it didn't feel like he was. I mean, he had Tellez on toast, like, and I thought he was playing really well before he went down. And obviously, like, he gets fouled for the penalty. He just is just, I don't know, like, he just is always so good, and he has 12 goals and like 6 assists this season. He could very well get to like 15 goals this season, and not a lot of players that play in his position get that many goals. You know what I mean? So I think that he's just growing and growing and growing. I do hope that he's not injured, but that at the same time, if he is, it's time for somebody else to step up. Somebody like Pepe needs to step up. Like, Saka has been playing so many minutes that at some point it's going to wear and tear on him. So yeah, I think we need to start really pushing Saka as the young player of the season because they will try to overlook him, but he should get it. He should get it. He's been so good, and in a way, like his people didn't even really believe in him and believe in his talent. And last season, it was very much like, well, he doesn't have end product, and he's da 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 da, and like he got into the Euros team. I think there were some people that were salty about it. I didn't even know if he was going to play or not. He ended up playing so many more minutes than a lot of people thought. He missed the penalty. I didn't know how he was going to be after that. And he just kind of went strength for strength since then. And he's becoming something that I never could have imagined him becoming. Dev says Saka was balling today. Winchester Crew podcast says Saka 8. Dev says had Tellez on toast. iGamer says Saka gets an 8. I would say Saka's only, for me, this season only really struggled against Andy Robertson. That is the only player I've seen him not be able to get any change from. And that is, I think, that says a lot because a lot of players struggle against that side of the Liverpool defense, the Van Dijk, Andy Robertson side. That's the only time I've really seen him struggle. But every other team that he's played against this season, he's been excellent for the most part. And he has goals against Man City, goals against Man United, Chelsea, and Tottenham. So he's scoring goals in big games as well. So we have to start pushing him for the young player of the season. Don One says Saka 7. Sohan says Saka is just different gravy. Dev M says Saka gets an 8 or a 9 today. Saswat says Saka getting at Tellez and company from the first second of the game was crucial to our early goal, set the tempo. Yeah, exactly. Christian says 4 goals against the top 6, crazy. Yeah, I mean, people were saying that he's like a flat track bully. He only scores against the smaller teams. That's so false. It's not. And again, I've only really seen him struggle against Andy Robertson. That's it. Matt G said he looks so confident taking the penalty. Obviously went on the other side against Chelsea. He went to his right. In this game, he went to the left. And so he's also he can't be clocked either, which I love. The Eddie says, I looked Sancho and Rashford today and realized Saka is clear. I mean, that little video going around where they were at England camp and Sancho was, how many goals did you score this season? And just knowing that Saka is killing him statistically is great. Tony says Saka tore up Tellez on literally one leg. I think he plays injured quite a bit. I don't think he's ever really 100%. So yeah. Terrence Tibbs says Pepe doesn't fit our distinctive style of football. Doesn't matter though. Like we're gonna have to use freaking everybody. And so if Saka's not fit, the natural replacement for him for me is Pepe because he's the only other left-footed player that we have that plays on the wing. And so at some point we are gonna have to use Pepe. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was like against West Ham or whatever, So unless Saka is fit, which I don't think he is. Christian says he's a proper mentality monster. Paul S says Saka gets tired after 75 minutes. Well, a lot of players do. He has to build up his stamina. Terrence Tibbs says Malloy. Oh, yeah, Malloy, we see your comments. We get it. You're mad. We see it. Ryan Henry says Ivan Tony hit the post versus Spurs. Yeah, he did. Tony says, which is a better nickname, Little Chili or Starboy? I think Little Chili because it's unique to him. Everybody calls one of their little players a Starboy, so that's what I would say. Let's see. Yeah, that video. So you guys saw it. That video, it did backfire. It was like, how many goals do you have in the league? How many have you scored this season? It's like he scored more than you. GSK says, how do Arsenal have such a huge fan base? Chelsea, Man City are way better than them. Still, their fan base is not half of Arsenal because there was life before Man City and Chelsea became big clubs as well. Arsenal is a historical club and we've been successful for longer. So that's why. And it's different when you bought your success over actually earning it by winning things. So, like just on your own from hard work, good recruitment, building it over time. I think it's just harder for people to resonate with a club with no history, or a history that's been bought. So I don't know if that was supposed to be like a dig or something, but Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man United are like the traditional big clubs in England. Um, there's also other big ones, but we're the three that haven't really had that level of just foreign backing in that way. And so it's just different. It's just different. Arsenal are huge. Um, so yeah. Oh, you're 15. Okay, so yeah, if you're 15, then Liverpool and Man United and Arsenal are like the traditional big clubs in England, and Chelsea was taken over in 2004, but there was life before that, and so when you're young, you kind of follow the team that your family followed, and so it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger from there. Man City, they don't really have a huge fan base like we do because their club is not bigger. They may be more successful now, but it's been bought, and it's just different. So, yeah, it's difficult to explain because it would be like, well, the best team should have the biggest fan bases, but there was life before um the Sheikh came in and bought Man City, and Roman Abramovich came and bought Chelsea. So, yeah, it's just different. Our clubs are just bigger. So yeah. Who came off the bench? Who came off the bench? Rob Holding did his usual good job, but I think today he got his head on some very crucial crosses. And so I love how all of the memes come out when he's about to come on, like in case of an emergency, break glass, bring the Rob Holding out and put him in a back three. And so Rob Holding for me gets a 7. Um, is I have 20 seconds. Why? Yeah, you have 20 seconds. I got it. I got it. So, yeah, Holding was good when he came on. Martinelli, I thought was good when he came on. Had some good energy. I would give him a 7 as well. And I think that's it. Right? Nobody else really came on. So yeah, I think we're in a good position, you guys. We're in a good position. We didn't necessarily play super good, but we got the points. And that's what's important right now. We had a 4-month period where we were playing very, very good football. And had our best team out there. And so we have proof of concept in terms of have we improved in terms of our playing style and stuff like that. There's definitely a ways to go. I am kind of shocked that our goals against is very similar. If not, we've given up more goals this season than last. But what we saw for those 4 months for me was football that I could get behind. But I like that we've been able to figure out a solution for not having our best players available or having our starters unavailable. And I think it's just more about the intention and the belief and the confidence versus like, oh, we just don't have our best players, so we can't play. And so getting that confidence back was key. And I'm loving watching players that are kind of on the fringes like Eddie, El Neni, and Holding step up in our time of need. So, yeah, I couldn't be happier about that. Terrence Tibbs says, which fullbacks should we try to sign? I like James Justin from Leicester because he can play on both sides. He's basically two-footed, and one of his best attributes is his key passes. So he's somebody that can add a little bit more finesse in the final third. He also gets into the final third and scores goals, and he's kind of like he has the power and pace, but also has a little bit of more to him than maybe like Tierney does in terms of passing and stuff like that. So James Justin is somebody I'd look at. We've been linked with Livramento. I wouldn't be mad at that. In terms of just an out and out left back, I'm finding it hard to really see somebody that I feel like would be worth spending the money on. I'd rather us kind of work with Tavares, to be honest. But in terms of the right side, I would say being linked to Livramento for me is going in the right direction. I would prefer to spend 25 million on him than 15 to 20 million on Spence. Um, and obviously we have Brook Norton Cuffey coming through, but I would just leave him out on loan and let him do his thing and not try to rush him into the first team because we need a right back. Just go ahead and spend the money on one. Don One says, would you take 50 million for Tierney? I would. His injury record is a worry. I mean, if I actually thought we could get it, yeah, maybe. But I know we're not. So there you go. I think we just have to like ride it out with Tierney for another season and see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if not this summer, but the next one we may look to move him on because at 25, 26, depending on where we are, we might want to bring in somebody else, but we just gave him a big contract and he was basically going to be our captain. I do think if you try to sell him this summer, you won't get the money that you probably would want to get for somebody like him, but I also think it could disrupt the team because he is a big part of it. But if I could get 50 million, probably, but I know we're not going to get that. So, and I love Tierney. Yusuf asked Edu's comments after the game about transfers thought Jess. At first, when I just saw one or two players, I was like, no, but I think he meant one or two top players, and then we'll get like some other smaller signings in as well. We need like 5 or 6 players. So I don't really know what the range of these top players are going to be in terms of price, because if you were to bring in like Lucas Paqueta and Nunez, that alone is 120 million. So it's kind of like, okay, so we're going to do that and only bring in like one more player, because I think we're going to spend about what we spent last season, which was like 150 million. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I mean, I would like to see a couple of smaller in terms of price signings come in. So if that's like a Tielemans, if that's who they really want at 25 million, you can bring him in, and Gabriel Jesus at 30 million. That would be good. Spend big on a striker, get a right back as well, and maybe bring in another midfielder. I would like to see us explore the Sabitzer situation. Getting somebody like him for 20 million would be a steal. He does very similar things to Ruben Neves, but he would cost infinitely less, and he's older and would give us some more experience. But it sounds like they have a plan. They have to have one because they basically said that they have a plan, and that's why they didn't buy anybody in January. So I do believe that they have a plan. I'm just hoping that whatever they choose to do, they get it done quickly. I don't want to be waiting for the signings on the last day, because we need to hit the ground running, because we see how not hitting the ground running has hurt us these past 2 seasons. So whatever you do, do it quick. But 2 big signings and maybe 2 smaller ones is kind of what I could see happening. But I just don't know who the big signings are. It looks like the smaller signings will be like Tielemans and Gabriel Jesus and maybe a Livramento. But those 2 big ones may be contingent on where we finish in the league. So if we finish in Champions League, we probably could get Darwin Nunez. If we don't finish in Champions League, we may end up with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So that's kind of where I think we are with that. I'm just kind of reading in between the lines there. Credit King says, is this sustainable in terms of what we're doing now? I don't know. I don't know if it's sustainable, because we know that when we play against West Ham, those guys are a lot bigger, and defensively they have bigger guys. So what if Nketiah gets kind of lost in between those center backs, and then it doesn't work as much? So I don't know if it's sustainable, but we only have a couple more games left. So we kind of just have to piecemeal things together until we know what we were trying to do. Those 4 months where we were playing really well, that was the direction that we were going in. That is sustainable if you can get players in behind those key players that we lost, so that we can continue to play that way, and also add a striker. But in terms of like what we're doing now, I think we're just piecemealing things together until the end of the season. So sustainability is not really what I'm worried about. I'm just like, let's just push it over the line. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and kind of get out of here. I'm going to go hang out for the rest of the weekend. But yeah, this was fun, you guys. Enjoyed just kicking it, talking about our win and the top 4 and some transfer stuff. Um yes, Sohan, you're on board with the Jesus hype train. Good, because I'm driving that hype train. I really am. Um, just want to address one thing. I saw a comment here from, I think it's Lucas. He's been putting these in here in the chat the entire time. Jess, you did not believe anymore in Arsenal this season. Yeah, I thought the season was over. And what? Like, what are you going to do? So here's the thing. I'm not the only one. And when you lose 3 games on the bounce, yeah, it seems like everything is over. Does that mean that I don't believe that the players are good? No. I think when you say things like top 4 is done, and I did think that we could slip out of the top 6 if we continued on playing that way. When you say things like that, people just decide, okay, you're one of the negative people, so I'm going to put you in a category. And so everything that I say from here on out is, well, you were negative, you didn't believe, you didn't do this. Guess what? When a team goes through bad form, a lot of fans just think that it's going to continue. Just like when we're winning games, people think that we can't lose. I personally don't feel bad for being just a regular fan. I do analyze the game, create content, but I'm a fan first and I'm emotional just like everybody else. So it's not that I get to enjoy the games that we win because I actually want the team to do well. There's a difference between me, somebody who does get caught up in the emotion when we lose games and when we win games, and I get to the highest highs and the lowest lows. There's a difference between me and the people that actually want us to lose because they want to make money off of their channel. So I'm not going to sit here and like act like I'm not allowed to have the emotions that I have because I'm just a fan. So you can keep saying like I didn't believe in Arsenal anymore and da 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 da, but I get to enjoy these wins just like everybody else. So there you go. It's not like I want us to be shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's get out of here. Let's see. Today is Saturday, so I won't be here on Sunday, but let's try to get back together on Monday and talk more, okay? Like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's still about 170 of you guys watching, so like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all those great and wonderful things, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.